So, hello, my name is Tommy Ledgeworth.
Hi, Tommy.
Hey, Tommy.
The team of dedicated students and myself are the primary organizers of this event. We are marked by these little V's on our cheeks, letting you know that we're volunteers. So if you've got any questions, please talk to the people with the V's on their cheeks. They'll be trying to keep us safe, keep us out of moving traffic, etc. So I'd first and foremost like to extend my gratitude to all of you for showing up this evening. Okay, before me stand people both young and old, both progressive and I'm sure conservative. And the fact that you all are standing here, side by side, shoulder to shoulder, fighting to defend the integrity of our democratic process is a truly inspirational sight.
Get that
right. Second, I would like to thank OSPIRG, the Oregon Student Public Interest Research Group. OSPIRG is the organization that I and my volunteers work with, and without that organization, this event would not have been possible. There's a lot of costs associated with putting on an event of this caliber. For example, we had to submit a $500,000 liability insurance policy to the city and the state. And without OSPIRG, we wouldn't have had the resources available to make something like this happen.
We can do more damage than that, can't we? I'm just kidding.
But on that note, I would like to say that it's a travesty. It's a travesty that we need a large nonprofit organization in order to do something like this. In order to legally take direct action and make our voices heard. See, the citizens should be able to organize themselves, especially in a democracy as reputedly great as the one we have here in the United States. We should not, or we should be able to do this thing, but at present we cannot. We can't because we, as regular citizens, don't have the resources readily available to us. You see, we live in a unique society, a society that is centered entirely around money. We equate success with how big one's paycheck is. We equate happiness with material goods. And in 1976, the United States Supreme Court ruled in a decision titled Buckley v. Vallejo that money equates speech. And without money, this evening, we would not have been able to gather here legally and speak. I'd like you all to take a second and think about the concept of money as speech. It's a little weird, right? I mean, now, when you think about it, when you buy a product on the market, in one sense, you're voicing your support for that product over another. When you make a donation to a politician, in a sense, you're voicing your support for that politician. It's a relatively clear statement of support. See, the problem does not inherently come from money as speech. The problem begins to arise when we take away regulation on campaign expenditures and donations. And that is exactly what the Supreme Court did in 2010. January 26th, 2010, free and fair elections died in the United States. They died because of the ruling in a court decision called Citizens United versus the Federal Election Committee. Because in that decision, the Supreme Court ruled that because money is speech, and because corporations are people, and billionaires are also people, probably more so people than corporations, I would say, but that's debatable. Because they're people, and because money is speech, it's an infringement on their free speech to limit campaign donations. Now, those campaign donations would go to a political party, a politician, or a political action committee. So, the group of donors most affected by this decision isn't made up of average citizens like you or me. It's made up of multimillionaires, billionaires, and multinational corporations. See, the real problem does not lie with the nature of money as speech, but with the disparity of wealth in this country. and thus the unlevel playing field that we are presented with when presented with the prospect of unlimited campaign spending. You see, the Supreme Court didn't factor into their decision, or depending on how you look at it, may have factored into their decision, which is a more frightening prospect to me personally. They didn't factor into the decision that in large enough quantities, money isn't really speech anymore. It becomes a physical embodiment of power and influence.
Whoa.
It is literally a physical embodiment. In this country, whether we like it or not, and the more money a person has to throw around, the more power and influence that person wields. Now, money can actually function as a legitimate form of speech in political elections, but only when there is a level playing field. And this level playing field would be granted through reasonable regulation. Say there's a $50 limit on campaign contributions, which is a crazy idea, I know, right? Absolutely ludicrous, but imagine it for a second. $50 limit per person for campaign contributions. I can say to a candidate, hey, you know what, I like you, I like your platform, I don't have the time to spend organizing for you, here's $25 instead. Go do with it what you will, I support you. Now, if I give that politician $25, that $25 isn't that much different from the $50 limit, and thus my voice is pretty much equal to anyone else. Problems arise when an individual can say, hey, I like you, I like your platforms, whatever, here's $1 million. Go wreak some havoc. Once you get elected, though, remember who put you there, because you're going to owe me some favors. And if you fail to uphold your end of the bargain in satiating my desire for whatever I want, next time around I'll give $1.5 million to your opponent, because they might actually listen to me. Now, I'm not saying that this is necessarily right, giving money as speech, but in small quantities it's reasonable. What is absolutely unreasonable is the situation that we face today. So as crazy as that second scenario might sound, it's a realistic synopsis of the situation that we're currently facing and the system in which we are currently operating. According to a study recently released by OSPIRG, the organization that I work with, 93% of funds donated to political action committees come from a mere 750 individuals. That's less than 1/5 of the population of this school. Think about it, 750 individuals commanding 93% of campaign expenditures in a country of 300 million people. The percentage that donates that money is too small for me to even actually verbalize to y'all. I don't even know what, that's like 0.00003% of the population that commands 93% of all expenditures. It's pretty crazy. So, as you might be able to see for yourselves, the democracy that we cherish so highly is quickly turning into a plutocracy. The transition from rule by the people to rule by the rich is underway this very moment as I stand here before you. We are currently in a bad way, and things are really only looking worse in the foreseeable future, but that is exactly why we're out here this evening. We're out here to make a statement. We are out here to exercise our First Amendment rights.
Amen.
We don't have the money to buy political favors or attention. All we have is our voices, our hearts, and our minds. All we can give is our time and our physical presence. And though the Supreme Court may not recognize your presence here tonight as a legitimate form of speech, I assure you that your presence speaks volumes. We're here this evening to speak out against the injustices that have been thrust upon us. We are here this evening to help cast off the veil of ignorance and misinformation that has blanketed our people for too long. Most importantly, we are here this evening to remember. We are here to remember that things have not always been this way. We're here to remind people that things were once better than this, and that they can be once again. We are here to illuminate the dark recesses of the collective consciousness of this nation and bring into the light the true embodiment of government of the people, for the people, by the people.
Yeah.
Just as the flame, that isn't quite on my candle yet, but will be. Just as the flame of this candle starts with a single candle, so does the movement for truly free and fair elections start with a single audience. Yet I assure you that it will spread from person to person. Just as the flickering light of your candles will ignite the candles of the neighbors standing next to you. It will spread from household to household, from city to city, from state to state, as is being assured by David Cobb right here. My man, he's a headliner. He's going to give a rousing speech in a little bit when we're down there. See, from sea to shining sea, the spirit of the American people will be awakened because it must. No longer shall we fear offending our oppressors, for they have their heels on our necks. And if we don't act now, we will no longer have the breath to continue politely asking them to relinquish their grip.
Yeah!
We have been subdued, misdirected, and silenced for too long. We the people must rise up and educate ourselves, our friends and neighbors, so that we may take or retake our democracy. My friends, the time for action is now, and the place for action is before you. This night, we demonstrate to ourselves, to our community, and to those who would seek to oppress us, that we, the American people, have awakened from our slumber. We will not be silenced, and we will not submit to corporate servitude. I tell you that the community of people here today has the ability to move mountains. I tell you that actions speak far louder than words, that actions even speak far louder than money. I tell you that actions will be the thing to overcome the cacophony of cash that has muted the voice of the people for far too long. So let us march forth this evening with renewed vigor and with strengthened resolve. Let us march forth with remembrance of better days gone by in our hearts and candles held in our hands to illuminate the path to a brighter future. Thank you.
Tommy, on behalf of my contemporaries.
Mic check! Mic check! We need some healthy volunteers. To help carry this goddamn coffin.
Starting to smell.